From Calexico to Nunavut and from the Aleutian Islands to Newfoundland, we have the content covered. This is the Dynasty Pulse. What up, Mike? How you doing? You got a wobbly pop?
Yeah, it's wobbling.
I'm drinking Polar Seltzer, not a sponsor. Hey, Polar, reach out, all right? Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse, everybody. I'm Big Boned. With me is Greinberg. We are here to bring you what is happening in the Dynasty offseason. As we know, Dynasty is a year-round venture. It's not just the counting stats that happen from week 1 to week 17, week 16. We do things through January. The NFL playoffs are popping off. We got the championship games coming up this weekend. We're deep into the Dynasty calendar, and so we're going to be coming at you every week, and we're going to be bringing you content that is relevant to the Dynasty grind. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. We got the Senior Bowl coming up. We got the Combine coming up. We got the pre-draft stuff coming up. We got rookie camps coming up. We got training camp coming up. All the roster cuts, the 53-man cut down, everything. We're going to be bringing it to you. Probably some Scott Fishbowl content, too, for SFB 14. And today, we're going to be talking about our top 24 Dynasty Startup Rankings. Now, Greinberg and I sat down, not together. I'm in Northern California. He's in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Very, very different, very far away. But we both sat down and came up with our rankings, and we're going to compare and contrast those today. Basically, tell you what we're going to be doing in Dynasty Startup drafts as they get going throughout the year because of these rankings. Now, we do have some rookies without landing spots that have wound up in our top 24s, and we'll discuss those along the way. I think the format with this episode right here is we're going to be going blocks 6 at a time. So we're going to have Mike start. He's going to give you his 1 through 6, and then I'm going to give you my 1 through 6. We're going to push back on each other and argue, duke it out, debate, what have you, and let's go. So, Mike, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I sure do. How's it going, everybody? Hopefully you're having a great evening, just like we are.
I'm good, Greinberg.
What up? What up? First episode of the Dynasty Pulse. We are so pumped to be here, and we're
I'm remiss, derelict in my duties. I wanted to tell you that we are coming at you on the Fantasy Football Plus platform.
Yeah.
So subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell, get the algorithm going. If you like it, subscribe, and we'll keep coming at you every week.
Yeah, hopefully we can earn your trust and earn your like, because we don't want to do that without earning it. So let's go, Benny. So I have a top 6 here so we're talking Superflex here, right? So we're talking Superflex Dynasty Startup. So do you want to, should I add my thing to the stage, or should we just let it roll out here?
Go for it. Go for it.
So as you see here, I have a very top-heavy quarterback, top 6. I have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. That is rounding up my top 6 for a Superflex startup. You're looking at these guys. The only person that is in this top 6 that wasn't last year is obviously CJ Stroud, who, man, did he look incredible on his rookie season. What an incredible rookie year he had. In the 15 games that CJ Stroud played, he was the QB 7 overall. Stroud had an incredible rookie season where he threw for 4,200 yards and 24 touchdowns as a rookie. Stroud only threw 5 interceptions in his 15 games that he's played. His poise, quick decision-making were on full display when this Texans team overachieved by not just making the playoffs, but winning a game decisively against a very good defense in the Cleveland Browns. So I have Stroud in my top 4. It's being pretty common now to see him there. I noticed on your take, you don't have him there. So let's go over your top 6 and see where we differ a little bit here.
Okay, my top 6. I am going with All right, my top 6, I have Jalen Hurts at number 1, Lamar Jackson at number 2, Josh Allen at number 3. It's another place that we differ. Dak Prescott at number 4, Brock Purdy at number 5, and Patrick Mahomes at number 6. I have CJ Stroud all the way down at number 20. I'm not saying that CJ Stroud isn't a good quarterback. I love CJ Stroud, and he did very well for me in the 2023 dynasties and redrafts too. I fade quarterbacks, and so I loaded up on CJ Stroud and Desmond Ritter. Unfortunately, the Desmond Ritter shares didn't really do me much good, but CJ Stroud did. He's good. I just think that for him to vault himself into that upper echelon of fantasy quarterbacks at this point, it's going to take him a couple years to get there. We have established guys that are up at the top, save for Brock Purdy. But Purdy has shown that when he is on his game, his points per game is right up there with the best of them. And I see a huge year for Anthony Richardson, provided he stay healthy. But if we're talking about a superflex draft, I'm more willing to take a chance on Anthony Richardson and let CJ Stroud fall, and then work on picking up a running back or a wide receiver or two, and say that I have a later round pick. Say I have the 10. If I have the 10, I'm getting Bijan and Justin Jefferson and hoping that CJ falls a little bit. And I think with the positional differences, I think that's a good value play. One thing that I looked at in my top 24 was where guys are going in the draft. So if somebody falls, say you load up on quarterbacks everybody's trying to get those 2 quarterbacks in the first couple rounds. So the values for the other positions start to increase over the values of quarterbacks, and that's where CJ kind of falls a bit for me. There you have that.
Okay. All right. You want to explain why Dak's there in a dynasty startup? Like, why is he at 4? You look at his age. Yeah, he had a good year this year, but that's as best as he'll ever do. He's not going to get any better than that. I don't see it progressing. He's only going to be on the downcline from here on out. Like, why is Dak at 4 for you?
Quarterbacks typically age very well. We have some perfect examples out there in Matthew Stafford, 2022 Geno Smith. So I have zero problem ranking Dak very high. Dak has had some super high top 10 finishes in fantasy. And if you think back, he was injured for a good year, and it's taken him a little bit to get back. I think the Cowboys are going to be renewed next year. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to take much crap from Mike McCarthy, and the Cowboys are a pass-heavy team, and CeeDee Lamb is my wide receiver 1. Let me refresh. Yeah, CD is my wide receiver 1. Anytime you have that, you have a quarterback who's going to be putting up some numbers. So I think they correlate really well together, and I'd be willing to take a chance on Dak. Again, I tend to fade quarterbacks and look for value with quarterbacks, so I have no problem overrating Dak Prescott, because this year I didn't have any shares, so I can't see myself being a heavy Dak owner next year. I have him ranked that high, but I don't see him falling to many drafts to me.
But you have him at 4, so you're picking him in a startup over Mahomes, right? Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to our next 6. I'll add mine to the stage. Okay, so I agree. I have a couple burners here. I'm really high on Brock Purdy too. Not quite as high as you are. I'd be a little bit higher on if he had that big contract. Hopefully he gets that. I think he's earned it at this stage. Jordan Love is up there. So I've got 7 is Anthony Richardson. Jordan Love is my 8th. Then it goes CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Brock Purdy, and Justin Herbert, rounding out my top 12. I justified a couple things here. Jordan Love creeps up into my top 10. That might scare some people off, but I've seen some really good things from Jordan Love this year. I love his situation. I'm really excited about where these Packers are headed. He's only 25 years old. He was able to incubate, if you will, behind one of the best quarterbacks of all time. 64% completion percentage, not great, but he did pass for 4,200 yards, 32 touchdowns, which was second in the league, 247 yards of rushing, which is another component that adds to his game, 4 rushing touchdowns. These are all really good qualities, and he finished as a QB5. So, like, for me to rank him in the top 10 in a startup dynasty, I don't see it being out of the realm of possibilities here. And I think a big extension is on his way this summer. So that's only going to further increase his value. So I think I'm going to be ahead of the curve on Jordan Love on this one. And I think he's going to really gain value this offseason when the Packers decide to pay him and give him the money he needs.
Yeah, I love Jordan. And you know that. Anybody who knows Mike and I know that we have another podcast that's a weekly podcast, and we talk about these guys all the time. And Jordan Love is somebody that we were hammering all year. I love Jordan Love, but again, and as that Green Bay wide receiver core starts to gel, a full healthy year from Luke Musgrave, the emergence of Tucker Kraft, they got some weapons there. And they got a really young team. And over time, that's going to all come to fruition. Same with CJ Stroud. So as I'm ranking people, that is taken into consideration. But an historical perspective is also very important. I don't necessarily like the Chiefs receiving core, but I think that Mahomes is in a situation where he's going to be doing that well. One thing that I notice, and at your 6 and at your 12, I don't have Herbert or Joe Burr in my top 24. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
my 7 to 12, I got Justin Fields at number 7, CeeDee Lamb at number 8, AR Anthony Richardson. Number 10, Bijan Robinson. 11 is Justin Jefferson. And 12 is Tyreek Hill. Later on in that first round, obviously, again, this isn't a mock draft. This is a player rankings. And I like the points from CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill in that 8 to 12 range.
Okay, yeah. Like, for me, I have a hard time putting Hill there in the top 24 just because of his age and the uncertainty of his career. Really, he talked about retirement last year and a couple-year plan for him. He's elite. He's obviously putting up monstrous numbers, and if he plays until he could play till whenever because he's that good. But is this hard in it? Is he going to do it? I don't know, and that's what worries me about him in that situation. Obviously, he was wide receiver 2 this year and he missed a bunch of games. You can't deny that. And I understand why you have him there. For me, just the way I draft in a startup is a little bit different too. Just a different strategy altogether. And that's why we're doing this show, is because as a startup, you may want to look at a different strategy and include some of these older guys that are still elite, and you'll still get elite production. Whereas I'm seeing more of a younger approach to this situation. So both very effective, just a matter of where you see yourself and how you manage your teams. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So
and there are a couple of different approaches in a dynasty startup. And I am of the opinion that what you want to do is you want to start off to win. Basically, what you want to do is you want to bank that first season's winnings and give yourself time to retool your roster rather than just focusing on youth, focusing on value. And like, I've seen people play a whole bunch of different ways, but almost 75 to 85% of the time that I see dynasty startups, people who are going with the win now approach, the ones who are taking the Derrick Henrys who are old rather than the Breece Halls, those people actually win that first year of a dynasty startup. Now, if this was a redraft, things might be a little bit similar on my side, and you probably would be more on my side as well. I understand the youth movement in dynasty, but this is for people who want to win now. Bank that capital, pay out. It's like in poker, having your monitoring your buy-ins, right? That's what you're looking at on the table. Every time you win, it's not necessarily a dollar value. It's how many more blinds you can pay for. And if you go ahead and win a championship in your first or second year because you drafted a whole bunch of veterans, you've now banked your buy-ins for the next couple of years, and you can work on trading some of those veterans, offloading them for high draft picks, things like that, and revamping your roster. So that's why we're here, is because there are different ways to approach the Dynasty season.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into the next, the bottom half of our top 24. And
the top half of our bottom half.
Yeah, so I have
that's 13, where the tramp stamp is.
Yeah, exactly. I've got at 13, Amon-Ra St. Brown. At 14, Jamar Chase. At 15, Jahmyr Gibbs. At 16, Breece Hall. At 17, Bijan Robinson. And at 18, Caleb Williams. So if you look here, this is where my sweet spot of the running backs position is. I've faded them pretty hard up to this point. I think this is where is a sweet spot for me, and there's only 3 of them on the board for me, and that's Gibbs, Hall, and Robinson, and it's in that order. That's just how I see it. I loved Breece Hall coming out of college and stuff. I think he's got a great profile. I just like Gibbs' situation. I just like what I see on with my eyes better with him. And then Bijan, he's there. He's probably the most talented out of the 3, but I'm worried about his situation out of the gate right now. We still don't know where that's going to lead. Obviously, Arthur Smith isn't there, so that's only great news for Bijan. So he should be where he was being ranked last year. So we'll see what happens there. And then my biggest one there is I have a rookie coming in ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields, some of the bigger names, an unproven rookie that some people are calling the next Andrew Luck prospect. So we'll see what happens with Caleb Williams, but I got him ranked up there high. I think he's going to get a good landing spot with some good weapons around him to start off, and we'll see what happens.
I faded Caleb a little bit more than you did. I think I have him at 19.
Exactly.
So the biggest waffle point for me was trying to decide who I wanted as my RB1, Breece or Bijan.
Yeah.
And the announcement today of the hiring of a new head coach in Atlanta is what actually tipped the scales for Bijan over Breece, because I was on Breece as my RB1 for a while, but the fact that head coaching decision has been made and they're going to essentially run a really high-powered offense that's quarterback-centric, but Bijan being such a threat in the receiving game, just like your Jahmyr Gibbs and your Breece Hall, I think Bijan has the between the tackles upside that Jahmyr doesn't have, which puts him over Jahmyr for me, because they're very similar in the receiving game. And Breece is an absolute beast in the receiving game, the way that he can break long receptions, and he has that between the tackle upside as well. Now, one thing to watch is going to be the role that David Montgomery plays, because I think Jahmyr did prove that he can be more of a bell cow back even at his size. But we'll see in this NFC Championship game coming up this weekend. In addition, watching the wire and seeing what happens with David Montgomery, I think if the Lions wanted to move on from Montgomery at some point and make Jahmyr the focal point in that backfield, I think they'd probably be very comfortable doing that. He proved himself. That said, I don't think they're at that point yet, and that's what drops him for me.
And I don't want him there, honestly. I don't want Jahmyr Gibbs taking those hard hits up the middle type scenario. Like, he's a great runner, and he's shown that. Like, that was the biggest thing for me, was I was worried about him running the ball. Like, I knew his passing. He'd get his receptions, and there's still a ton of room for him to get more in that passing game when you look at his numbers. So I love what I see. I actually want a David Montgomery there to take some of those harder hits, so to keep him, preserve him, because he's super efficient with what he does. I I want someone to take those hits for him. I love him either way, and he's just been ultra effective. And I think they're going to use him when they need him in the big moments. And yeah, you're going to see his usage go up when the Lions need him. I think this is going to be a big test this week. Like you said, I think look at Jahmyr Gibbs this week as a difference maker, and if he can, look out next year, folks.
My office pool wants the 49ers to win. My heart is rooting for the Lions.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what's going to happen in Detroit if the Lions win?
No.
Yeah,
exactly. I can't. All right, my number 13 is Breece Hall. I go Christian McCaffrey at number 14. Jamar Chase at number 15. Amon-Ra, I like Amon-Ra as well. Puka Nacua jumps up to number 17, and rounding it out at number 18, I love me some Jordan.
Yeah.
So, again, Breece Hall, I think, is an exceptional player. I think the first quarter of the season, he was behind this year. If you take what he did pre-injury in 2022 and combine that with what he did post week 4 in 2023, I think that is the real Breece Hall. I think another full off season and a full healthy season next year, and we're going to actually see what this man has on offer. Unfortunately, in Dynasty, really strict players like to go with a 3-year window for running backs, and next year we'll put Breece at the end of that 3-year window. Understanding that, I'm going to give him a 4th year before I start trying to offload him. But yeah, I think he has a huge year. Christian McCaffrey doesn't care about father time. Jamar Chase. Now, we talked about this in our other show. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson being the 1 and 2 in 2023, people who were trying to gain clout from making the right call were calling for Jamar over Justin Jefferson. And that came to fruition over the course of the season. But if you look at it based on points per game, in the games that Justin Jefferson played and was healthy, he was far and away the better fantasy wide receiver. So while I like Jamar Chase, you don't draft expecting injuries. So nobody figured that Justin Jefferson was going to get hurt. The people who were making the case for Jamar Chase over Jefferson last year were just doing it so that they could be different. We all know that Justin Jefferson is the better fantasy option than Jamar Chase. Amon-Ra, love him. And Puka just jumped on the scene. I think if you look at a top 5 of CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra, and Puka, I mean, come on. There are some splitting hairs to do there when you're trying to put those rankings together. You could even easily put Puka over Amon-Ra. I love all of them, and that's what I'm going. And then 18, Jordan Love. Oh, the emergence of Romeo Doubs last week, Jaden Reed throughout the season, Dontavian Wicks, even Bo Melton, he's got himself a whole bunch of pass catchers. Aaron Jones, resurgent. They looked really good. They just came up against the San Francisco Buzzsaw. I made a trade in my home league, traded away Tyreek for Jordan Love and Luke Musgrave and a couple other pieces, including a draft pick. So I'm doing whatever I can to own Jordan Love on as many rosters as I possibly can, and him right there at 18 in the top 24, I think is a great spot for him.
All right, man. Okay, let's get into the last half here, like the last quarter of our game, and let's talk about my last ones here. And
let me get a drink of my Polar Seltzer, not a sponsor, real quick first. Hey, Polar, reach out.
All right, so at 19, I got Marvin Harrison Jr., Trevor Lawrence, 21, Kyler Murray, 22 is Puka Nacua, 23 is Justin Fields, and my surprise one that I'm still thinking about making it into the top 24, but I really like him, so I needed to express that interest, and it's a reach here, but I like Malik Neighbors as my 24th in a startup here. I think he would have been the number one pick if Marvin Harrison wasn't in this draft. They're
Of
very
course.
close to me, and the guy's a stud. And yes, probably Drake May probably could be there instead in a super flex, but I just really like Neighbors, and I think he's gonna get a good land spot. I like his just the size, of speed, the combination of everything. He's everything I want there. So yeah, the one that I'm still really worried about here, I'm still scratching my head over, is Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if I want him in my top 24. I'm worried about him there. That's a warning. That's like, these rankings are liquid, folks. So like, it's the end
We're
of
talking January.
Exactly.
It's January 25th.
Yeah. like if Drake May gets a good landing spot, like, I'd love his profile. He's pushing Caleb Williams at this stage in a lot of ways, and a couple other prospects. But what we're looking at right now is my Trevor Lawrence reluctance. So we'll see what happens there. That might change, but that's where it's standing right now. What about you?
We have very similar looks with the quarterbacks, save for Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence not being in my top 24. I actually would put Jaden Daniels in my top 24 before any of those other three guys. Yeah, I love Harrison Jr. there. There's a good possibility that he gives you top 12 value. And if he wasn't in the draft this year, I think Emeka Egbuka would come out. I don't know if that necessarily vaults Neighbors up to number one, or if Egbuka had a whole lot more steam throughout the season, the pre-draft during the season than Malik Neighbors did. Malik Neighbors has helium now, and I love him. I decided last night that anybody in Smurfs Dynasty League, don't watch this video because I don't want to tip my hand. But I have the 102 and the 103, and I know for a fact that the 101 is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So. And I know who I'm going to take with the 102 and the 103, and I'm going to change my team name to Broleek Browbers. Because I'm taking Malik Neighbors with the 102 and Brock Bowers with the 103. Yeah. And so I love Malik Neighbors, and that I just didn't have him in my top 24. That was more of I'm hesitant, especially with landing spots, to throw rookies in the mix right now. Well, that'll all change at the end of March. Give us some combine numbers, things like that. Our rankings pre-draft between the combine and draft are going to look wholly different from this. But rounding out mine, I've got Caleb Williams at the 19, like I said, one spot below yours. C.J. Stroud at number 20. Kyron Williams jumping into the top 24 at number 21. A.J. Brown at 22. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 23. So I do have those two rookies there. And number 24, hashtag Novato Boys. California Golden Bear legend and Novato compatriot Jared Goff. He has looked absolutely incredible. We watch a lot of career arcs with quarterbacks, and as they age, they start to get a little bit better. I think his time in Detroit has galvanized that Detroit offense. And if I'm looking at him within the first couple rounds, I'm pulling the trigger. He's got such a good ball, and I just love watching him. Yeah, and Kyron hopping up there that's a big one for me.
I love Kyron. I think he'll make it in mine. I'm reluctant to put it in there right now. I'm just gonna wait to see what happens in the draft. I know McVay has put his eggs in his basket right now and it says so, but we know that the Rams will probably draft a running back in the second, get in some competition there. So see what happens. If no huge competition comes in there, like a huge name, then yeah, I'm right in there with Kyron Williams being in there.
I disagree. I don't think the Rams are going to be taking a running back. I think they're going to roll with Kyron. If they do, they're going to take one late. They're going to take a fourth or fifth, sixth rounder. If you watch the Rams and how they draft, that's not their bag. They're going to find another Kyron Williams in the sixth round. You know what I mean? Give him a couple years to learn the offense and learn how to pass block and roll with him then. Yeah, and that's like the way that Kyron's career happened. He wasn't really he came out of nowhere. They didn't really have a whole lot of options. They're running with Henderson and they're like
Akers.
yeah, Akers
two second
was the
round guys.
incumbent.
So
Royce
they are known.
Freeman they're throwing out there. Like
yeah, fair.
I'm not saying that I don't see them going out to get a replacement for him the way that he performed this year. I feel like they're going to expend the capital elsewhere.
I hope so, because he's great, and that's what I'm waiting for. Because I'm waiting for them to not draft somebody, and if they don't, then yeah, Kyron is a guy that's going to get into my top 24 for sure.
They need a replacement for Aaron Donald more than anything else. The wall comes quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't have such a great year.
Cool, man. Well, that's it for us in the top 24.
Woo! That's a quick one.
Yeah, man. That's quick for us.
Yeah. And we're going to be coming back at you next week. We're going to have a mock draft put together. No landing spots again for the rookies, but they're going to be in the mock draft. Sleeper ad of the rookies. So you can do sleeper mock drafts with the rookies in there. If you like the video, please subscribe and share it around. Comment. Mike and I are totally free to respond to comments. Follow me on Twitter at BigBonedFFB. Mike, you want to tell them where they can find you?
At FFCanuck99. And yeah, tune into us. Follow us on Dynasty Football Network Plus. Like, we are ready to rock, and things are going to keep coming down in the pulse because things change. Everything changes just like your pulse, and we're going to be on top of it for everybody in our view. Let's go.
And I want to give a big, huge shout out to our guy, Bradley Stalder.
Bradley.
Fantasy Football Plus. That's the platform where we're coming at you. You can find us other places, but you got to check out our Twitters to do that. And Bradley Stalder has done an absolutely marvelous job of putting us on. He's our player profiler boss and giving us this opportunity, and we're totally grateful. From Northern California and
Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
This is the Dynasty Pulse with Biggs
and Greinberg.